Unconventional real estate investing is not offered as an elective or prime course at any school, college, or university. Matter of fact, the focus and intent of our educational system today is to prepare a student to get a job, not necessarily qualify for a job. The school is expensive, it's time-consuming, and the outcome is the issuance of a little piece of paper called a degree that seems to have some magical and illusional result that should guarantee nearly instantaneous success and fortune after paying for it. It is not required nor necessary in this course or career of unconventional real estate investing that are necessary to engender the confidence in any investment that we choose to take on. What separates us from conventional real estate investing? What sets us apart from the normal institutionally taught financial real estate techniques? Those questions will be answered in every process and technique that we teach in this course. We do things differently. We do them for a reason. Its foundations for unconventional real estate investing is thinking outside the box, being creative, observing the availability of vast amounts of profitable and equitable deals in the marketplace, and then procuring them. My fortunate introduction to it came as a consequence of 18 formal and nearly 25 informal years of the business of real estate. The formative years indoctrinated me into the business in the industrial and commercial realm, which taught me about negotiating leases, purchases, sales, and investigating and procuring properties while being tutored in normal industrial and commercial real estate practices. After closing a large contracting company in 1989 and simultaneously obtaining my broker's license in the state of California, my venue in normal residential real estate began. I also then started up a mortgage brokerage company in which I did loans for residential and commercial clients. As the 80s closed and the 90s ushered in, the formidable economics of the early 90s hit, and real estate economies seemed like they were going to cease and desist. We call it going in the tank. The ever-rising interest rates were but a small hint of what was coming. Foreclosures, short sales, flipping homes were all the venue at that time. People think that that is something new in these days, and it really occurred back at the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. We got our feet wet doing it, and we got well educated in those processes. I want to define short sale. There's quite a few people out there that understand what that is. It's a buzzword of today's economy. But for those that don't, it's where the property owner owed much more than the value of the property. We finally realized that the bank actually owned more than 100% of the property in most of the cases. So it made it possible to go to the bank and negotiate the way out of that property for the minority owners and get them on with life without affecting their credit for 7 to 10 years as the alternative would have yield, as well as dealing with other real estate anomalies that were occurring in that era. It really didn't encourage the purchasing of real estate except for the rich and famous and liquid. The key was rich and particularly liquid, or having cash. Having cash funds that weren't tied to the prevailing nearly 20% range of interest rates. People in that position stood to make quite a bit of money in real estate because when they went to the auction or to the bank, when they negotiated, everyone listened. There weren't any other competitors in the game. You didn't need many on your team, just the cold hard cash. During that era, I became an expert in short sales, negotiating for some friends and many clients so that I could sell their properties, keep their credit relatively clean without the foreclosure blemish, and receive some earnings out of that process to live on. I would then usually have a buyer set up for that property as well, and if I didn't get the listing, which was very rare, I'd bring the buyer in with full knowledge of how motivated the bank was to unload the property. Quite frequently, we'd see 45 to 70% reductions on the existing mortgages, and with negotiating no 1099s, which is the way that the government notifies debt relief or something we have to pay taxes on, it would do more than save these property owners nearly a decade of credit unworthiness, poor reputation, a lot of tax money, and embarrassment. If we didn't negotiate that 1099 out, that would mean the property owner would either give up or lose their property, or had no equity in the properties usually anyway, and through the negotiated price it would sell for would almost always have debt relief, which is the forgiven amount of the loan with the difference between what was owed and what it was sold for. The remaining amount would be credited to the property owner. That's not a positive action. The property owner would then owe that amount in taxes, usually for a long period of time, with penalties accruing if they're not paid. Most of these cases were predominantly from a death, divorce, job loss or transfer, or some kind of health, emotional, or terminal sickness issue. Anyway, after proceeding through these negotiations for several years, the light bulb finally went on. My clients, the people I was helping, would make some healthy profit margins by purchasing these houses that would go back to the bank, cosmetically enhance them or redo them, sell them and make a great amount of money. It seemed like a great idea when you could make more money than hard work. When these events became more and more prevalent and actually became nearly an every week process, I found myself making quite a chunk of money living on the relatively meager commissions that I could derive out of the process, but realized that I was getting an educational that was priceless. That became my first eye-opener and started those mental juices going regarding the available inventory of wholesale homes. I continued in the normal residential real estate practices into the late 90s, still toying with the idea of investing in wholesale homes. Through another business I was involved with, I met a fellow who worked for the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency of the Treasury Department. He mentioned that they seized homes for criminal offenses, felonies, drug dealing, etc., and they ended up selling those, which financed their cars, radios, firearms, aircraft, and any new equipment that they needed. And they sold them very cheaply. I spent an afternoon in his office trying to inquire and find out as much as I could about this government agency's procedures of confiscating properties and then selling them. They didn't have any current properties, but it taught me much about their motivation to sell and how they did it. It also introduced me to quite a few other agencies that had the right to confiscate and seize properties based on certain serious crimes or others due to non-payment of government-insured contracts for property.